Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Showtime Toastmasters 5th Monday workshop. Showtime strives to share knowledge and expertise with all those interested in learning. Tonight, we have a special treat for you as one of our most experienced and knowledgeable members illustrates how to watch a public speaking contest. All right. So there are people who watch a public speaking contest for the entertainment value. Others watch to judge for themselves, but a special percentage watch to learn what the next great trends are for public speaking. We're here tonight so that our own dear Trish Blackwelder, DTM, PDG, can tell us all how to watch a public speaking contest for the World Championship and know what's coming over the horizon. Trish, you're up.
Thank you, Marilyn, for that introduction, and welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to have you here tonight to participate, because we will be having discussions, I'm sure, as we go through really what it takes to become a world champion of public speaking. If you've ever left a speech contest scratching your head as to how the results came about, hopefully this workshop will strive to improve your speech analysis skills and help you become a stronger evaluator. Today, we'll be talking about session objectives, virtual versus in-person speaking, judging versus evaluation, that word originality, which everybody seems to struggle with, as well as a list of resources that you can use to continue practicing these skills once the workshop is done. The objectives for tonight are to help you improve your understanding of the art of speaking for an international audience. Many think that when they're doing the international speech competition every spring, that they write a speech that's appropriate for their district. But really, you need to start thinking about writing your speech for an international audience. Should you advance through the area, the division, the district, the regional, and then on to the semifinals, you will be speaking to an international audience. So you need to keep that in mind when you're crafting your content. Another thing is using the pathways evaluation criteria. How do you really rate a 5? What makes a 5 a 5? And how it demonstrates skill mastery. So we'll be talking about the 8 evaluation criteria that are presented to us in the Pathways program. Also, Pres Vasiliyev has always said that to become a better speaker, one must first become a better speech critic. And critic is not a bad word. It is an appropriate word because you need to be able to conduct an analysis, to be able to break the speech down in its components and then score it accordingly. So you are a critic in the truest sense of the word and should not shy away from that word. Let's start off with virtual versus in person. When we're going, and all the contests this spring are going to be virtual contests. So I've put in a little extra information tonight to talk to you that you can share as a contestant getting prepared for the spring speech contest. What do you really need to know in order to improve your speaking environment for the contest this season? We'll also be talking about audiovisual equipment, your internet connection, and how a speaking area is defined in a virtual setting. When it comes to your AV preparation, connectivity is the most important key. You don't want to have a great speech and then start having your internet connection buffering away to where your judging team can't really evaluate your speech or score your speech. Bandwidth is absolutely critical. And the first thing you need to do is go out to Google and search for how to test my internet speed. If you think about 1080 pixel resolution streaming, they will be streaming in the 6 to 11 MIPS range, or Mbps. 4K, we're all hearing about 4K video streaming on the new television sets and stuff. Those are streaming in a range of 24.2 to 68.8 MIPS. When you test your internet speed, you want to be testing up in that 10 to 14 range. And to give you an idea, I tested my internet connection in advance of this presentation, and I used the top 3 tests that were recommended. And you can see that what you're testing for is upload speeds as well as download speeds. So my download speeds are in the 13 range, which is very good. And my upload speeds are running about 4.8, 4.9, 4.9.6. So I'm running well within the upload and download range. If you're not testing in that range, then there are steps that you can take to improve your stability of your internet connection and reduce the likelihood of buffering. So there are, make sure that you have no echo in your sound, that any static or other excessive noise in the area or rooms around you, it has been reduced. Your camera should be on high resolution. Make sure that you're only using a single camera setup. You cannot use multiple cameras, and you cannot use follow me cameras or camera lenses or cameras that zoom in and out to stay in focus with you. So a fixed camera, single camera is what you need for your contest speech. It's recommended that you place your camera on a tripod or at least on a solid flat surface in order to maintain stability and prevent any unwanted movement. Cameras must have an unobstructed and in-focus view of your speaking area, which we'll get to in just a moment. And then the entire speaking area must be visible throughout the speech. Okay. Also, have a plan B. What are you going to do if you lose your internet connection? Do you have a secondary laptop or device setup that can take over? Do you have a contact information for the chief judge of the contest to find out if you lose your connection? This again should be part of the briefing, but if it's not, don't hesitate to ask. What happens if I lose my internet connection? How long do I have to notify somebody or reestablish it to be eligible to pick up my speech wherever, at whatever point it was lost? When it comes to audiovisual, I've also mentioned cameras a little bit. I did a search for 2022 best webcams. What you see on the screen were the top 3 that were recommended. Again, some could be cost prohibitive, so make sure you do your research and make sure that you're investing in a camera that's affordable for you with the best possible quality. And then get a free Zoom account if you don't already have a Zoom account, and start having dress rehearsals or trial runs, test runs, whatever you want to call them. You need to make sure that the microphone that you're using is more than adequate to pick you up wherever you are in the speaking area, that the camera is obviously working correctly, and that you're getting the quality that you're looking for. Record not only your entire speech so that you can evaluate your speech yourself and decide if there are any adjustments you want to make, but also that the quality of your streaming is where you're expecting it to be. So let me pause there and see if anyone has any questions. And Bobby, I rely on you and Marilyn to let me know if there's anyone raising hands, because I can't see anyone right now.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat right now, so you're good to go.
Okay, I'll continue on then. Meet your speaking area. These were snapshots I took from the 2020 World Championship of Public Speaking, which was the first one that was done virtually. These were the top 3 finishers in that championship. We're going to be talking a little bit about how they use their speaking area and some of the trends we saw at that time. Mike Carr was the eventual winner of the World Championship of Public Speaking, and the first 2 rows will be dedicated to him. During his speech, there were 5 separate times that there were innovative techniques that he used to leverage his speaking area. He spoke from way down in the lower corner of the frame. He also moved almost out of frame, and you do never want to move completely out of frame. But what he did is what you see in the next frame, where he used the side of the frame to pull himself back into the frame. That was something we had not seen before that was innovative. The other thing was he was talking about an old school film projector, and how the film would run through the machine, and if it got off track, it would flutter, or it might even overheat and burn out. And those were the 2 gestures that we saw that not only reinforced his speech, but also made good use of his speaking area and the lens of the camera to make his point. So these were 5 things that I saw in Mike Carr's speech that I have always remembered, and I look to see if anybody is following this trend in their own interpretation, not just replicating what Mike did, but taking it a step further. Linda Marie Miller placed second in the finals, and she gave a political and somewhat controversial speech. And the thing that was different, aside from that fact, was how she used her poster boards. She was speaking about a character, someone from her life, where she was evaluating whether or not she had displayed bias in the relationship. So there was the poster of the person that she was talking about when she introduced them. And then as she got into the question of whether she felt she had bias or not in the relationship, she would raise the words that were going through her head, but she would not be speaking the words. So she'd be going along with the speech, and then you would hear her brain. And then she would speak, and then you would hear her brain. And it was a very effective way to make her point that what goes through your mind isn't always matching the words that you're saying, and it's what's going through your mind where the bias can live. Again, very effective in her speech, and I wanted to call those three things out. And then Lindy McLean is a theater artist and dancer, and she brought movement to the speaking area, to the speaking frame, like no other speaker I had ever seen before. She used every inch of the speaking frame, forward, backward, side to side, diagonally one direction, diagonally the other direction. And when she needed to do the facial expression, she always made sure she was close to the camera. So she'd draw you in with the emotion that she was speaking about and demonstrating with her facial expressions. She'd move back when she had the bigger arm movements. She would move forward. She would go again diagonally from one corner to the other corner, and then in reverse to a diagonal. So there's a lot of room with your speaking frame that perhaps you're not fully taking advantage of, and that's something to consider when you're videotaping yourself, and how you could add additional effectiveness to your speech. Any questions or comments? No? Okay. Gloria?
Angeli has her hand up.
Yes.
Go ahead, Angeli.
Yes, I have a question. Is it part of protocol to have the all white background? Because I noticed all three have a blank background.
No, there's no specific about your background other than it should not be distracting from the speech.
Thank you.
Depending on what you want to wear, what your skin color is, what your hair color is. Obviously, Mike Carr wore a very dark suit, so seeing him off of a white background was very clear and very clean cut in his presentation. Same thing with Linda Marie Miller. She was wearing a black suit, and so working off the cream colored background is very effective. Lindy McLean chose to wear the predominantly black, but with a white dramatic pattern to her blouse, and so she's got a little darker background. But the object is you do not want to blend into your background, and you do not want to have the background be a distraction from your speech.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Now, when it comes to the international judging criteria, if you've ever looked at a judging form, and if you never have, do so. You can download them free from Toastmasters International. But what I've done is I've underlined on one side all the things that the judging criteria speaks to. Those are listed then in the bullets over on the right-hand side. So you'll find comments about structure, about making sure your speech structure has an opening, a body, and a conclusion. You must be engaging with your audience, movement in your speech that carries you from the opening all the way through to your conclusion, that it's well supported, that there's a purpose, there's interest, that it's appropriate for your audience. And this is where some of the international considerations come in. There are words that are appropriate in the United States that are inappropriate in some foreign countries. And those judges or those audience members will be insulted by a word that you use. So do your homework when it comes to the language that you're using in your speech. Your speech needs to be meaningful and original. And meaningful is a good mark that most speakers will hit. It's the original part that they struggle with. And that's why I have broken it out as a separate topic tonight. Then there are the important ideas that you need to convey. A mentor of mine has always said that it has to touch the heart and it has to touch the mind. It has to make you think. It's supposed to make you think. And that is one of the ways that you're measured then on how well you engage your audience. Your appearance should reinforce your speech and not distract from it. So again, something to consider about what you're going to wear when you are competing. Vocal flexibility and variety are key. Having a connection with the audience, making sure that the audience gets your message. And as you practice your speech in front of audiences, that's one of the key questions you want to be sure to ask. Did the audience get the message, or did you have to just really explain it to them at the end? When judges are judging, it's less about what and more about how the message is said. The words are important. They should convey a clear purpose and a clear thought. And so when you are constructing your speech, try to look for phrases that will truly connect with the audience and transfer your meaning that you want them to receive. You should demonstrate that you are a master of your words and a master of the language that you are speaking, and then making sure that you're using effective use of the speaking area. I'll take some questions around this, but again, this is information that is very well covered in contest judges training and in the contest rules book. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through every detail of the judging criteria here tonight. Lynn, any comments from you?
Not at this juncture.
We should note that Lynn is the District 3 Chief Judge this year.
I had to put you on the spot at some point. You know that.
I'm paying attention.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about that originality. It really is defined if, again, you go to the judges form and look at the definitions. The speech value should justify the act of speaking. I don't often hear speakers presenting or preparing their speeches with this phrase in mind. When I'm putting a speech together, before I put the finishing touch on it, I want to make sure this speech content is justifying my act of speaking. Am I touching their head? In other words, am I going to hit their brain? Am I going to make them think? Am I touching their heart with something that's emotional? Am I going to draw them in? Am I going to leave them with something that's going to make them go, when I'm all done? This is where you're getting into the speech value justifying the act of speaking. As a speaker, we have a responsibility to say something meaningful and original to the audience. So it's not a regurgitation of someone else's opinion or someone else's ideas. Often when we're doing a research project, we are researching material and bringing some of that material forward, but we should have an original interpretation to share of that material as well, so that we're giving the audience something to think about. And the listeners should feel that the speaker has made a contribution to their thinking. Did you ever write a speech with the intent of having someone leave feeling like they learned something from what you just said? That's a good challenge to have when you're preparing your speech. And then the ideas should be important ones, although this does not preclude giving them in a humorous presentation style. So I've heard some great speeches that were humorous, funny, entertaining, but still conveyed an incredibly important message. So this is where original thought comes from. This is where you score the extra points for not just regurgitating ideas that are well known by the community or the population, but interpreting them in perhaps a different way of thinking. All right, any comments here?
I don't really see anything. Thanks.
Okay. Now, just so you know, I'm not making all of this up. On the left-hand side of the screen, you're seeing the judging criteria that I showed you first. On the right-hand side of the screen, you're seeing the 8 specific skills that are called out on Pathways evaluation forms. This is how Pathways is now teaching us to learn the art of evaluation. And I remember someone saying, well, it's entirely different. They're not connected at all. And that's not true. Every single one of those 8 categories will line up to something in the judging criteria as well. So I prefer to think of it this way, that the evaluation forms in Pathways with the scoring that we do on page 2 and these descriptions and definitions that you see on page 3 are helping teach the fundamentals that become part of the international speech judging criteria. And why is that important? Because not every speech that we are going to hear or evaluate is going to be an international speech contest winner at the World Championship level. But it doesn't mean that the categories of skills that we're evaluating changes from a club contest to an international speech contest. It means that as we become a stronger evaluator based on these 8 criteria in our clubs as evaluators, we are also moving in the direction of having a better understanding of how to evaluate an international world championship speech. And that is important. Every year I challenge myself to judge the international speech contest at the world championship level and see whether or not I pick the winners. Now, for almost a decade, I had a really great track record of always picking the winners with the other judges. Not so much recently because of some of the originality and innovation that is being introduced now by the international speech contestants at the World Championship level. So if you really want to know where speeches are going, where becoming a professional speaker is going, pay closer attention and get engaged with the World Championships of Public Speaking, because that's where you'll find not only the criteria, but the originality and the next trends for what's coming next. All right, I'll pause here. Any questions or comments?
I have something that I need to sort of add. And I apologize to Trish. I kind of forgot to tell people who are attending this evening that Trish is a Pathways mentor. She's the head of the program. So that might explain why she's drawing these comparisons right now. My apologies, Trish.
It's not a problem. But one of the things that I hear often about Pathways is nobody understands why the evaluation forms changed. And maybe now you understand a little bit better why. It's just to provide consistent exposure. Yes, Connie.
So going back to the speech development is about 50%. In a 5 to 7 minute speech, do you have any general guidelines on, you should spend maybe 3 to 4 minutes setting up the story or setting up the speech to reach the climax, and then 30 seconds for the climax, and then the call to action, and then in a minute for the conclusion? Any general tips on that?
No. The thing is that you have an opening, a body, and a conclusion. And once you start speaking, the momentum of the speech should move you forward from the opening through to the conclusion. And however long it takes you to do that, to set each stage up, is what you have to do and not exceed your 7 minutes and 30 seconds. So no, there's no guideline. That the speech would become very mechanical that way. If I always said, or if I said I'm spending 2 minutes on my opening and 4 minutes on my body and then a minute and a half on my, conclusion, my speeches would become very mechanical then. And I think you'd pick up on that.
Okay. I was just wondering maybe if there was a general guideline. Thank you.
Nope. Sorry.
If I
All
could,
right.
this is Bobby, and I just wanted to say that I've heard a guideline that in a humorous speech contest, not necessarily international, but for a humorous speech contest, I have heard people say that you should always try and get a laugh within the first 30 seconds. So.
And that would make sense. Okay. Same way in an international speech contest, your opening sentence to 2 sentences has to grab the audience. If you don't, you've missed your golden opportunity. They already start waning on you if you haven't grabbed their attention in the first sentence or 2. Now, how long those sentences are, is up to you as the author, but you do need to catch them right at the beginning. You need to really make sure that you grab them and pull them through the camera. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I think.
All right. Go ahead. Was there something?
Please continue, Trish.
Okay. All right. I have selected for you, there are 5 speeches on the list, and I'm intentionally going to skip the first one. Cyril Dim, who was the 2022 world champion of public speaking, spoke in person. Because the contests this spring are virtual, I'd like to focus on virtual contestants that have won in different categories. Andre Matt is a virtual contestant that placed second. Now, remember, Nashville was an in-person, it was a hybrid convention. And I found it interesting that the contestants were in person except for Andre Matt. And Andre Matt was virtual and he placed second. So that is one speech I definitely want us to see tonight. Angela Heath was the 2022 video speech contest winner. Non-districted clubs have an opportunity to speak in a separate kind of world championship that is a video speech entry. And so I'd like you to see her speech. Anum Kadri was the second place winner, and there's some good lessons to learn from her speech as well. If we have time, we'll look at Verity Price, who was a virtual contestant in 2021. All right, now I tested my sound earlier, and I'm hoping that, let me just switch over. Okay. And Bobby will do a quick sound check. Let me know if there's any problems with this video.
Each year, Toastmasters International conducts the video speech contest, designed specifically for members of undistricted clubs. Clubs that participate conduct a speech contest and submit a video of their first place winner to be judged by a panel of Toastmasters members. I'm pleased to share with you the second place winner of the 2021-2022 video speech contest, Anam Quadri.
Imagine it's evening and you're heading home after a long day at work. You're dreaming of a hot cup of tea or coffee or even hot chocolate wrapped up in your blanket, and you fire up Netflix. But then you're jerked awake by the realization that you are stuck behind a slow-moving car. Not an off-roader, nor a Rolls Royce, but a donkey cart, merrily creeping on the road with the rider, all of a sudden interested in everything happening around and not interested in you or your honking horn. Imagine that frustration, that exhaustion, that helplessness, no matter how much you want to honk the horns. But while donkeys sound like horns, they don't understand horns. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I have been this donkey once. Oh, no. I mean, I had a vehicle similar to a donkey cart, riding which felt so much like a donkey. It was our old Suzuki FX, a vehicle that the Pakistani masses used for commute back in the 80s. It was a magic carpet, a UFO, hovering and lurking around in the streets of Karachi with the speed of light, provided that light was traveling through the black hole. It was a two-driver ride, in which the first one took over the steering wheel, while the other one operated the gear, which was another item. The gear shift box had no concept of a second gear. In fact, you went directly to the third one. So the sequence went like first gear, third gear, first gear, second gear, stop. The clutch was meant to be operated by the Hulk. Even after stretching the entire left leg, you were not sure whether it was enough. Thanks to this, countless times, our car produced a weird sound and sputtered to a stop, jolting us to our bones. The horn. It was another item. When we pressed, a cantankerous sound appeared either from the car itself or out of your vocal cords. There were times when going out for shopping, while I juggled between the clutch, the gear, the horn, my mother-in-law sitting beside me would pop her head out and scream, "Run for your lives, run!" Imagine the man or woman crossing the road at that time when gave one shot to that oncoming automotive Medusa, stood there petrified. Guess how did we escape from murdering those pedestrians? Simple. First, second, third, second, stop. After my marriage, this car proved to be my unplanned in-law to which I had to get accustomed to. Every morning before setting out for university, it was shiningly polished with the hope that it would carry me to my destination safe and sound. While turning around the corner, special care was taken that there was no car in sight. What if Her Royal Majesty took offense to that and refused to budge? Hydration is very important. And for this reason, we made sure not to leave the house without a gallon of water. a few drops for our soon-to-be sore throats, and the rest of it for our little dairy not. I know you must all be wondering that what made us stick to it for so long? The first being the same reason as to why do we stick to our spouses. The lack of alternative. The second one being that it was the safest ride one could take in a crime-infested city, since nobody would cast a second glance to the person sitting inside, no matter whatever they are carrying. Finally, in 2009, we got rid of it. Oops. I mean, sadly, we had to leave her and say goodbye, for she found a new home in our family friend. When the time came for the money exchange, we were silenced into shame by our conscience. Yet it remains in our heart. Even today, when we think about it, we mind doing those acts that we did in order to make it run. The shouting, the clutch, the horn, the first third second, stop. Guess what? We loved it because it took me to my university from where I graduated. It took my mother-in-law to her shopping. It led my sister-in-law to her MBA. It was no ordinary car. It was our destiny, our ticket to the future. By all means, we can do anything, but we will always cherish it. You can walk, you can crawl, you can run, you can fly, you can drive a 20-year-old car or a jumbo jet when your destination is in sight. So first, third, second, never stop. Over to you, Mr. Contest Chair.
All right. Let me bring it back for just a second. Can you see my cursor on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. First off, what were the strongest points or strongest criteria from this speech?
Connie.
I liked her gestures, her humor, and I think her content was universal, something that everybody could relate to.
Did you ever see her break eye contact with the camera?
No. She had great eye contact.
She had great eye contact. I felt as though she was speaking directly to me the entire time. And that's one of the biggest strengths. That and her gestures were very effective. And the contrast of her having her gestures also in many times in front of her, they contrasted against her black outfit, which was in contrast with the white background. I do want you to notice, though, there were some negatives here. See the gap here?
That was bothering me. Yeah.
Yes.
That was bothering me. I was trying to figure out, I see that there's like a filter laid over this thing. And so that was on her side, but I kept waiting, the effect made it look like something was going to come out, or I don't know. It just looked weird.
I'm sure that it looks like part of a Nashville background that I've seen before. I suspect that what they had to do was whatever was showing in the off screen not off screen, but off her speaking area on the left and the right had to be hidden then when they went to publish it to YouTube. Okay, so this is artificial here. This is artificial here, but you can see there's something distractive here, and you can see something distractive here. This screen or this wall was not quite large enough for her speaking area. And this is one of those areas where she may have been able to make some adjustments in her camera position and spacing from the wall that might have helped her. And clearly the audio at the beginning, more so at the beginning than at the end of the speech, there was arguments between the microphone on her laptop or computer and something else in the room, because that was what was making it that the reverberation that you were hearing in the audio. So with more rehearsal or more taping or videoing or recording off of a Zoom account, she might have been able to pick up on those things and take action to remove them, as distractors. Someone is chatting. Comment to share?
Yeah, and Anjali is actually referring to her originality, which I also thought was amazing, taking that story and giving it that kind of impact. So, yay, Anjali.
Right. She had the one gesture about taking the entire left foot, and she did it right towards the camera. Did you feel like you were the clutch? I thought that was very effective. She also, at about halfway through the speech, she was juggling between the mother-in-law and the car and other things, and each gesture still reflected something individually that she was talking about in the juggling, which I thought was very effective. Okay. I can see, though, where some of the things that were troublesome is probably why she ended up in second place. She might have had a good chance at first. Okay. All right. Any other comments about this one?
I like the fact that she kept
Clutch.
it all a joke between us and her. It was like she was sharing a family joke with us.
Yeah, you kind of wondered how many times this story's been told at at a family gathering of some kind, which is what makes it very real and very personal, something that we can each relate to. We all had, or maybe not everybody, but most of us have had the first time we had to drive a clutch, car, story to tell. Okay.
Or just even our first car probably was a beater.
Or... that the demand for virtual speakers.
Okay. All right, moving on to our next speech. This is going to be the first place winner from 2022. So the person that beat Anum is now going to be speaking. And let me make this full screen for you and take it away.
Each year, Toastmasters International conducts the video speech contest designed specifically for members of undistricted clubs. Clubs that participate conduct a speech contest and submit a video of their first place winner to be judged by a panel of Toastmasters members. I am pleased to share with you the winner of the 2021-2022 video speech contest, Angela Heath.
I'm an airplane. Yeah. I'm Superman. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, don't you love the imagination of children? Children know no bounds, no limitations. They are always ready to soar. And I envy that so much that a few years ago, I started trying to figure out what makes some children soar their whole life into adulthood while others come back down to earth and never leave again. So I talked to the experts, I read a lot of books, and I came up with my own theory. It's called the SOAR card. Now, this is based on a very simple framework where I saw all of these experts saying the same thing. So what I like to do is share with you one of my old dreams from childhood that never grew up and take it through the SOAR card. And I'm going to challenge you, take one of your own dreams and goals that you let go of a long time ago. See if you can't pinpoint where you went wrong. So to start with, you need to decide and declare. Decide and declare. Now, when I use that phrase, I mean not just saying it. No. I mean putting some oomph behind it, making it real, getting it inside of yourself. This is something that you want, that you are willing to work toward, and then tell everybody. So when I think about my aspiration to be this well-known Broadway playwright, on that first aspect of the SOAR card, I have to give myself an X. No, I didn't decide and declare. I kept it to myself. But let me give you an example of someone who did it extremely well. Those of you who love boxing, you can remember, I am the greatest of all times. Muhammad Ali declared this so loudly over and over and over again to himself and to everyone who would listen. He had the media telling us that, and we believed it. But listen to this. Muhammad Ali declared it before he ever won one major fight. Isn't it amazing? The second aspect of the framework is called growth mindset it. Now, a growth mindset means that you feel that if there's a barrier or something blocking your way, that you can figure it out. You can learn more, you can practice more, but you can succeed. This is the way you think. A fixed mindset, on the other hand, believes only certain people are able to accomplish what you want to do, and you're not just that person. So when I grade myself on that, another big X. This is what I told myself. You can't spell very well. You're not good at grammar. You can't be a playwright, really? And then the final aspect is visualization. There's not one Olympic gold medalist who did not stand on the podium before they got to the Olympics. In the recesses of their imagination, they stood tall on the podium and they can feel the ribbon going over their head and they could feel the weight of that gold medal around their neck. They actually saw the lights flashing. They heard the crowd roaring, chanting their name over and over and over again. You see, they visualized it. And they really lived it before it actually happened. So when I think about my goal, I'm going to give myself a check mark because I actually did visualize myself being on Broadway. I visualized the crowd standing, giving me a standing ovation. I visualized that. But with the SOAR card, you got to get all 3 domains. And I only ended up with 1. So what does this mean for you? And what does it mean for me? It means that you could put a SOAR card up in your kitchen, your bedroom, wherever you can see it every day. And if you have a goal, you can remind yourself, you want to begin at the beginning, decide what you want, declare it to everyone who will listen. You want to use a growth mindset and know that with persistence, more education, more determination, you can make it. And then you want to visualize it. It's not too late for most of those goals. In fact, I'm bringing that old goal forward. I'm not too old to become a famous playwright. Neither are you. And if we use the SOAR card effectively, it won't be long that you and I will be like children and we will begin to soar. Back to you, Contest Master.
Okay. Comments?
She won with her point.
With her point?
Yeah, she made a point. She clung to that point, and she just, I mean, that speech won because it won by international criteria. It had the point, it had the build up, but you followed the flow, you followed the string from the beginning to the end of that point.
And it was also original. Have you ever heard of a SOAR card before?
No. Absolutely not. So yeah, she hit all the right notes in that composition. That's what that was.
Yes, she did.
Her gestures were absolutely spot on too.
Yes.
With one exception, in my opinion, because when maybe it's not true for an international audience, but we read from left to right. And
Yes.
So when you're doing time gestures, like from A to B or something like that, it should be done so that the audience sees it from their perspective. And she talked about decide and declare, and she kind of did it backwards. And I caught that. And then she needed a clip for her hair because it kept.
Yeah, I wanted to take scissors.
Was
to her
driving
hair. I
me
really
crazy, crazy.
And there's no excuse for that. There really is no excuse for that. It has nothing to do with ethnicity or anything. They're called bobby pins, and they're cheap. Everybody, I mean, that's all she needed was 2 bobby pins to put those locks of hair in place.
And she drew attention when she moved it out of her face too. So if you didn't notice it before, but when she did, I'm like, yeah, finally.
Finally. Other comments?
When she had key points to make, she came closer to the audience. She wasn't just in, say, one location. She moved towards the back and towards the front. As the key points were there, she was always closer, I'll say closer to the camera, closer to the audience, the person watching the speech.
Yeah, it's very effective to be able to lean into your camera and lean into your audience and almost like whisper to them. Lindy did that really well in her speech in 2020. Yeah. But the forward and backward movement means a lot. There wasn't a lot of side to side in this speech, but the graininess of the film shows you the lower end quality of the camera that she was using. Both of these speakers were probably using the cameras on their laptops and not investing in an HD camera, and that contributed to the graininess on both of the speakers. Okay, I want to show you one more.
Lori Carr has her hand up real quick too.
Oh, okay, Lori, while I get set up for the next one.
Yes, this may be a very minor point.
Are you driving way less than you used to?
She did not go to an acronym. I was kind of bracing myself. I think that tends to be overdone. S is for this and O is for, she didn't do that, and I appreciate that.
Great.
Yep. All right. The last one that we're going to look at is Andre Mott. Again, this was the actual world championships level, not the video contest, but the world champion speeches. And he ended up placing second, and he was not presenting in person. I think you will see a lot of what makes his speech a world championship level speech, virtual speech. Okay, and I apologize for
Driving
the
record?
commercials.
Are you over 25? Do you know?
Alexandre Matt. Missing ingredient. Missing ingredient, Alexandre Matt.
Thank you, Contest Chair.
You're welcome.
If you're there in Nashville, you see me on huge screens. And I would rather be there, there, wherever the middle is, on stage, in person. So why am I here and not there? That I can tell you in one word: tradition. In the movie Fiddler on the Roof, Tevier, the father of the house, struggles between the traditions that hold his people together and the changing world around him. I really identify with Tevier. For me, there is nothing more important than tradition, tradition. Contest Chair, my friends online and my friends on site, for generations, my family has had a tradition. All the family gathers all together on the same date, this date. When I was a child, these gatherings centered around the main ingredient, my grandmother, Grand-Maman, humble, resilient, and the best cook in the world. She made our family's special dessert, le gâteau pas cuit. Mwah! Le gâteau pas cuit. Would you like some subtitles? It's the no-bake cake. The no-bake cake is a simple recipe made from crushed cookies, coffee, and chocolate. Do you like it already? As Grand-Maman became older and her grandchildren more numerous, she passed the torch to the next generation, her eldest daughter. We were now in my Aunt Christiane's house, and we ate Christiane's no-bake cake. My Uncle Pierre, the little brother, he was sure to tease her every time. Yeah, Christiane, you don't make it as good as Grand-Maman. If Grand-Maman was the cookies, the main ingredient of the family, Christiane was the coffee, full of energy and flavor. So we started to think that maybe our family would crumble when Christiane left us too soon. Her brothers and sisters scrambled to keep the tradition going and to hold the family together. Who's hosting? Who's bringing the chairs? Who's preparing the games? And I'm thinking, who's making the cake? Well, it's important. It's tradition. I wanted to do my part. So I took Grand-Maman's recipe and I followed the instructions to the letter, which is not easy. Start with a chunk of butter. Chunk? I don't know what that is. I surprised my family the first time I brought the no-bake cake, and my Uncle Pierre had the first bite. Yeah, you don't make it as good as Christiane. Too much butter, I bet. Well, Pierre, what's wrong with it? How long did you leave it on the counter? What do you mean? You have to leave it on the counter at least 24 hours, so the no-bake cake has time to not bake. Okay, Pierre. Well, each year after that, I created a slightly improved version of the no-bake cake based on Pierre's constructive feedback. The cookies are not crushed right. It is too dry. The pieces, they are too big. He still ate more than his fair share. 12 years after my first try, Pierre said something different. Alexandre, your cake, it tastes like childhood. What? It's just cake. Or is it? No, just like any family special recipe, our no-bake cake is a symbol. It's a reminder of those we love and those we lost. And it's also really, really, really good. Now, this year marks the first year without our main ingredient. Without Grand-Maman, I don't know, maybe our family will crumble? Tradition! In that movie, Fiddler on the Roof, everything crumbles around Thévier. His daughters question the people's traditions. The family is evicted. All the villagers are forced out of their town. But the people remain because of their traditions. Yes, some are gone, some are changed, some are morphed, but others remain, and others are created. And it is those traditions that have held those people together for thousands of years. Will my family crumble? No. Because I know my cousins will be there to hold the torch, each one of them adding a special ingredient to our family's traditions. One of them is hosting us, one of them is bringing a karaoke machine, and I have the no-bake cake. Together, we are holding together the family. My friends, what do you want to hold together? Your family? Your community? Your social group? Think about the traditions that exist in that group and do your part to keep them alive. And if no tradition exists, create one. Okay, you might have been waiting for it, my friends, so here it is. This is my no-bake cake. You want a piece? I can give you one. Just reach out and take it. There you go. Yes, take it. It's for you. Take it as a reminder of the importance of traditions. And remember, traditions hold us together. Countess Chair.
Okay. Comments?
Can I ask a question of our chief judge or past chief judge? So at the end of his speech, when he, gave the audience a piece of the no-bake cake, and then he had a piece in his hand and he's looking at the camera and he takes a bite, but he's not speaking. Should that be counted in his time or not?
I think yes, because he's still engaged with the audience.
Okay. That's what I was kind of expecting, but I wasn't sure. I love that speech, I have to say. And one of the things he did was he repeatedly used this particular gesture whenever he talked about holding things together. And I remember, I forget which international winner it was, but one of them did some gesture and eventually they didn't have to say the words anymore because just the gesture was enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I see two hands, Marilyn and then Connie.
Okay. Marilyn?
one of the things that I think I liked the best about this speech was the way that he incorporated his reason for not being at the convention with a speech that had international appeal. It was like, and I understand that he knew he knew his year off, that he wasn't going to be able to be there for that day, but I commended him so much for taking on that challenge instead of just going like, oh, well, I can't go, and letting it go, So yeah, he was amazing.
And addressing it right up front. Get the elephant in the room out of the way. Why am I not there in person? Yeah.
I saw kind earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, this to me, I was so impressed. I loved it. The cookie analogy all throughout made you think, will my family crumble? The importance and the key phrase that will probably stay with me, it wasn't about the cake. It was this taste of childhood, which underscores the tradition and why it's important. And it's the little things. And he was very animated, and I loved how he looked at the camera and addressed us, asked the audience questions.
Yeah, I like that too a lot. One thing that I liked everything about it, except I think that he used his space a little too judiciously. I don't know. I feel like at first I liked how he would come in to the camera, kind of to make a point or something. But then I felt like he was doing it too much. Like he was taking advantage of it. I don't know. There was something about it that part of it started to bug me. And that was just the only thing I noticed about it.
It kept it very personal, though.
For sure, no doubt, but almost too much so. Like I felt like he was coming in too close too many times. Especially at the end when he was kind of wrapping up, he was just moving back and forth a lot, and I kind of just wanted him to stand there in his power and deliver the message. I really did. Yeah.
No, that's why we have these open discussions. Everybody sees something a little bit differently.
I love it.
Some of the things that were very effective was, where was Grandmama on the screen?
To his left.
Upper left. No, it's his
Upper
upper
being
right.
the key.
Yeah,
I think upper is
right.
the key.
Yeah. And where was Christian?
To the right. His right.
His left.
Yeah.
Lower left.
His left. So where's my hand going?
Did you realize then that he could do this and be talking about Grandmama and you knew exactly what he was talking about? Or when passing the torch, he had a great gesture of passing the torch, and he swept across the screen from Grandmama to Christian. I don't know if you caught it or not, but I had called that one out.
Lori Carr has her hand up.
Lori, go ahead.
Let me see. Yes, I agree about this being close. As it went on, I found myself kind of backing up because it felt very uncomfortable to me.
Okay. All right, fair enough. A couple of other things.
I'm sorry. That might be a cultural thing.
Oh, it is.
With the personal space, he's used to being closer.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the French are very intimate. So, and that's the feeling that I was getting from him, is that it was an intimate thing, and he was sharing that with them. So
100%.
Couple of other things that I hope you picked up on. He introduced the recipe, the cookies, the coffee, the chocolate, but then he used the cookies, the coffees, and chocolate later on as analogies to the new traditions and the people that would be bringing in different things to the family mix. He also talked about being 12 years old, as a child, and the remark that his uncle made, about the finally getting the recipe to the point that it reminded him of his childhood as well. Because remember, his childhood was with Grandmama making the no-bake cake every year for the tradition. So good tie-in, and also very exceptional use of word choices to ensure he kept our attention throughout the entire speech.
Angeli has her hand up as well.
Okay, Angeli.
I'm glad that he brought up how he could not be there in person. It is also pretty obvious that he really worked the stage and the camera, not only with the background being a digitized dual energy and dual color, but at the same time, when he handed the prop piece of the no-bake cake, he let that go. We did not hear the sound of that piece dropping. And when he came back, you could see that it was another piece that he had in his hand. So there was somebody off camera picking that up. No?
No, it's how his camera is positioned, what his camera was mounted on, and probably what he had laid out where he could set the plate down, probably on some kind of cushioned top, so there would be no sound that close to the microphone. And again, we don't know whether or not he was using the default microphone from the camera or whether he was using some kind of lapel mic that he had closer to him.
He had a mic on his tie. It was right there.
Okay, that's where it was then. Yeah. So that would not have picked up the sound then of him putting the plate or the pieces and stuff down if he had it up on a table of some kind.
Okay, and so it is well within contest rules. If having the pillow, having the setup, it is a-okay, and when it's off camera, as long as the message is still being focused. Is that
right?
Wonderful.
Yeah, you would have to be very, very careful not to have an assistant or something helping you, because you would not be able to do that in an in-person contest on the stage. Have someone help you. So
I got the feeling it was just practice. It was so smoothly done.
Yeah.
That you wondered if there was someone there, but knowing that there couldn't have been, he rehearsed that. He worked on that to make it that smooth. So
yes,
it was even smoother than when Linda did her poster boards, to do the mental part. In her speech, she did it so smoothly. You never saw them at all. And all of a sudden you just saw her slightly reach forward and there they were, it was not obtrusive, at all. Okay, we are running out of time and I want to make sure I cover a couple more things. Are there any last comments or questions that have not already been made?
I have one. He wore glasses, and I am one of the people who struggles with reflection on my glasses, and he managed his pretty well. I occasionally would see a light, but not very often. He did well.
Yes, he did excellently, which is why I wanted to make sure that we saw that speech tonight, because for anyone who thinks that a virtual contest cannot be as competitive, you've just seen the example of how competitive one can be. So, all right. In the presentation, these were the 5 that I had pulled out. I'm sorry, we won't get to see them all. I'm also going to recommend 4 others. Lindy McLean, the artist dancer person, the slice she left behind, not her world championship final speech, but her qualifying speech, is very effective use of her virtual space and an excellent one to go watch. Mark Hunter, Darren Tay, and Mohammed Katani are all in-person finals level speeches, but what you will see is how each one of them brought their own uniqueness to their speech, and it's well worth going and watching. I don't want to just give it all away. What you see Mark Hunter do in his speech is incredibly effective. Darren Tay has word choices that are phenomenal, as long as a very well-crafted story. And then Muhammad Katani, his whole speech is about the power of words. So very good other speeches to go take a look at. Okay. All of these speeches, by the way, are on YouTube. All you have to do is go search for them and you can find them. So tonight, what I want to leave you with is a challenge. You heard in part of the introduction for this presentation, part of this statement. Some watch the World Championship of Public Speaking for the entertainment. Others watch it to judge for themselves, but a special percentage watch to learn where the next great trends are for public speaking. Challenge yourself to watch this year's World Champions and listen for trend-worthy originality to be discovered in this year's results. The plate with the cookies was very reminiscent of Mike Carr's speech and use of the camera. And I was glad to see Andre bring it forward again, that interaction so close to the camera with something real that wasn't just a phrase or a word or a whisper, but a prop that was brought in and so effectively used so close to the camera. And you'll see that in both Mike Carr's speech as well as in Andre Mate's speech. So I'm glad to see, I'm glad to see that trend coming forward. Here are the resources. Grab your cameras, take a snapshot of this page, and you'll be able then to have these resources available to you. Obviously, we are recording this and you will find it posted later this week. So keep an eye out, go back to the workshops page on Showtime Toastmasters, and you'll see when the replay link is posted from there. Okay. If you're competing, test your internet speed of your uploads and download speed on your setup. If you are running from Wi-Fi, I discourage you to do that. Find a way to get a wired connection to the device that you are using for the camera and the computer, and work from a wired connection. You are less likely to have buffering or connectivity issues if you're working on a wired connection or like an Ethernet to a router than working on Wi-Fi. Those are my two best recommendations for you in terms of improving your speed and reducing problems with your connectivity. Make sure that you have read the speech contest rule book. Don't just think, I'm going to give a speech and that's all I have to do. You really need to know what the environment is for a contest. So get yourself familiar with the rules for the contest that you intend to compete in if you are going to compete. If you are coaching anyone in your club or providing feedback to a contestant that is practicing to compete, you should get familiar with the contest rules as well so that you can give them good feedback. And then with YouTube searches, all of those speeches that I shared with you tonight are available by looking for a specific year. That's the YYYY. And then World Champion of Public Speaking or Toastmasters International Video Speech Contest. And you'll find them and many, many more that you can use and continue practicing after this workshop. Are there any closing questions from anyone tonight?
Nary seen a one.
Well, then I wanted to come back and see the gallery one more time. The fun part about being a workshop presenter is that I don't get to look at your smiling faces the whole time that I'm presenting. So I'm very glad that you were all able to be here tonight. I'm seeing each and every one of you now on my screen. And welcome to Petra from Thailand again. So glad that you were able to drop in. Petra visits us frequently. We're very familiar with her. I hope this has been a valuable use of your time and that you will share this information with your fellow Toastmasters. If you are competing, I wish you the best of luck this season. If you are coaching someone that's competing, I wish you the best of luck in coaching them to succeed in their contest. If there's nothing else, Bobby and Marilyn, I'll give it back to you.
We want to thank everyone who joined us this evening and let you all know that our YouTube channel will have this evening's presentation ready for viewing on this Friday, February the 3rd. We also would like to invite everyone to join us for one of our club meetings on the 2nd or 4th Tuesday of the month. You can find us at showtime.toastmastersclubs.org, and you can register there for our club meetings or any of our workshops. Showtime also sponsors a workshop series called Power Hour. They happen once a month on the 3rd Monday, and we would love for you to join us for those as well. We have members who share their expertise on all types of topics, from how to write a great introduction, which happens to be coming up this month, to all other kinds, how to get the gig on, for those of you who want to go into public speaking as a career. We offer a lot with Showtime, and we would like to share it with you. Now, at this point in time, I will say again, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful and safe evening and enjoy the rest of your week. And please feel free to join us sometime at Showtime.